My wife's parents kicked me out to give my office to her sister's boyfriend. You're not even successful. Her mom laughed as they threw out my laptop. I just picked up my bag and walked away. 2 months later, they begged for help with their business. I wasn't supposed to be there that weekend. Originally, I had a project deadline that was going to eat up my entire Friday and spill into Saturday, but the client rescheduled at the last minute. That left me staring at an unusually open calendar, something that never happened in my world. I'm a freelance systems analyst, mainly contract work with mid-sized firms, mostly infrastructure evaluations, a bit of cybersecurity, and a lot of late nights. Not flashy, but I do all right. Nothing worth bragging about in Instagram captions, but it keeps the fridge full and the lights on. Why don't you come with me to my parents' place? My wife, Elise, said that Friday morning while she threw her bag in the car. They haven't seen you in months. It'll mean a lot to them. I shrugged. I didn't particularly want to, but we hadn't spent real time together in a while, and her family was tolerable in short doses. So I said, sure, let's go. That decision unraveled everything. Elise grew up in Waukegan, Illinois, about 40 minutes north of Chicago. It's one of those towns that never fully decided if it wanted to be suburban or just give up and stay half empty. Her parents, Claudine and Merrill, still lived in the same 3-story colonial they bought in the early 90s. Big kitchen, glass cabinets, a manicured lawn that Merrill mowed in slacks and boat shoes like it was a performance piece. They never liked me much. Claudine thought I was unmotivated, which is her code for not driving a Mercedes and not kissing her ass. Merrill didn't say much, ever. The man communicated in raised eyebrows and deep sighs. Then there was Elise's younger sister, Faye, 32, chronically unemployed, chronically reinventing herself, always between boyfriends and always just starting something new. When we pulled into the driveway, Faye was already out front on the porch, smoking a menthol and wearing pajama pants at 2 p.m. Look what the cat dragged in, she grinned. Hey Faye, I muttered. Inside, Elise and I dropped our bags in the guest room and walked into the kitchen, where Claudine already had a wine glass in hand and a look that said she had opinions and couldn't wait to share them. I see you finally decided to visit, she said without turning around. Elise hugged her mom from behind. I told you he's been swamped with work. Oh, he works from home, doesn't he? I didn't respond. That was always her way. She didn't argue directly. She undermined you with a smile and a loaded question. I'd learned not to take the bait. But the moment that changed everything happened the next morning. I woke up around 8, made coffee, and decided to get a little work done while everyone else was still asleep. I brought my laptop, as always, just in case. I needed to update some code on a project I was finishing up for a security firm in Oak Brook. I settled into the small study room they let me use whenever we visited. It had a desk, a lamp, and a surprisingly good internet connection. I'd worked there before, no issues. I'd barely typed 5 lines when the door burst open. It was Claudine, followed by Faye's new boyfriend Ty. Now, Ty was the kind of guy you can smell before you hear him. Heavy cologne, slicked back hair, tight shirt that showed off his arms. I didn't like him on sight. He'd been around for maybe 3 weeks, and I'd already heard Claudine introduce him to the neighbor as Faye's genius tech guy. Simon, Claudine said with a tight smile. I need you to move. I blinked. Come again. We're setting Ty up in here. He's got a new business idea and needs the space. I'm working, I said, confused. Oh, she said with a laugh. I'm sure whatever you're doing can wait. Elise said this room was fine. Well, Elise doesn't pay the mortgage, sweetie. That last word stung more than it should have. I stood up, still trying to process if this was some kind of bizarre joke. Ty came in with a duffel bag, already moving toward the desk. Yeah, bro, appreciate it. I got a lot of ideas to map out. Crypto-related, mostly. I'm not finished. Claudine walked over, grabbed my coffee cup and laptop, and placed them on the floor outside the door. You'll be more comfortable in the den, she said. Did Elise know about this? Oh, let's not drag her into every little thing, Claudine chirped. Besides, you're not even successful. This room's better used by someone who's actually building something. I stood there for a beat, then 2, and I realized this wasn't an ambush. This was exactly what they'd been waiting for. A moment to put me in my place. To flex control. So I nodded, walked over to the door, picked up my laptop, and said one word. Okay. I packed my things. Elise tried to stop me, of course. Come on, Simon, don't make a scene, she whispered, eyes wide, blocking the door. I'm not, I said. I'm just done. You're overreacting. No, I've been underreacting for years. She followed me to the car, trying to explain how her mom didn't mean it like that, how Ty was just a temporary guest, how she needed more time to get them to accept me. That's when I realized she wasn't really on my side. Maybe she never had been. I got in the car, closed the door, drove off. For 2 months, I said nothing to Elise or her family. I went back to Chicago, stayed in a short-term rental, and worked nonstop. I buried myself in a data architecture contract that turned into a consulting gig. Then another client called. Then another. I was sleeping 5 hours a night, eating like a college kid again, but I felt alive. And then the phone rang. It was Merrill. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Simon, he said, his voice low and awkward. We need help. I leaned back in my chair. With what? Claudine got on the line next. It's our new online store. The one Faye started with Ty. Everything's a mess. Nothing's syncing. Orders are getting lost. Our payment gateway's been shut down. We don't know who to trust. I let that sit in the air for a moment. Where's Ty? Gone. Disappeared last week. He left with our startup funds. How much? She hesitated. 32,000. I whistled. Wow, that's rough. Simon, Merrill said, you know this stuff. You could fix it. We'll pay you. I thought about that little office. My laptop on the floor. Her words echoing. You're not even successful. I smiled. I'll think about it, I said. Then I hung up. It was supposed to be a quiet weekend. I wasn't even planning to go. I had lined up freelance systems audits for a mid-sized logistics company out in Naperville, deadlines backed up, and a mild tension headache that had been parked behind my left eye for 3 days. But Elise, my wife, gave me that look. That one that said, please don't make me go see my family alone. I can't take another weekend of that. So I said, yeah, sure, I'll come. We packed a bag Friday morning and headed north to Waukegan. I drove. Elise picked the playlist of soft folk songs and a few 90s R&B tracks I secretly liked, but rolled my eyes at anyway. It was overcast, snow melting off the edges of the highway. The kind of Midwest winter that lingers into March like an unwelcome guest. The thing about Elise's parents is that they don't fight with you. They slowly, patiently dismiss you until you're no longer sure whether you were ever supposed to be there in the first place. Her mom, Claudine, is the kind of woman who can insult you and still offer you a plate of quiche in the same breath. Her dad, Merrill, mostly stays quiet unless there's money involved. That's when he suddenly has opinions. And her sister, Faye, well, Faye's Faye. We pulled into their driveway a little after noon. The house looked the same as always, big colonial, too many throw pillows, a faint smell of lavender and baked onions the second you walked in. Faye opened the door before we even knocked. She was barefoot, wearing sweats, and sipping something with oat milk. Wow, she said, smirking. You brought your laptop. Must be a big weekend planned. I ignored it. Elise nudged her as we passed. Be nice. Claudine met us in the kitchen. Elise, sweetheart, she said, kissing her on both cheeks. Then she turned to me. Simon, glad you made it. Didn't think you'd be able to pull yourself away from your emails. I smiled politely. The internet still exists in Waukegan, right? She laughed. Of course. Just didn't think it paid enough to make it worth checking. Elise laughed a little too. My stomach turned, just a little. I set up in the back room they always let me use. Not an office, just a spare room with a sturdy desk and decent Wi-Fi. I'd worked from there on and off over the past few years. Never had an issue. Until that morning. Saturday. Around 10 a.m. I was running diagnostics on a client's internal server when Claudine walked in, holding a large mug and followed closely by Faye and some guy I hadn't met yet. Simon, she said too brightly. I need to ask you something. I turned. Sure. This is Tyson, Faye's boyfriend. He's got this brilliant new business idea tech-based, and he needs a proper space to work. You understand. I looked at Tyson. Muscular, polished, tight black t-shirt, hair that looked like it had its own stylist. Hi, he said. Sup, man. I just need a desk and a few outlets. I'm building something that's going to change e-commerce. Okay, but I'm in the middle of something right now. Claudine smiled again. That tight, practiced smile that makes your back stiffen. And I completely get that. But you can take your laptop to the den. There's a perfectly good coffee table in there. This is the only desk in the house. Well, it's our house. And this is a family weekend. I looked at Elise, who had just walked in behind them. She looked uncomfortable, eyes flicking between her mother and me like a referee waiting for a brawl. Babe, she said softly, maybe just for today let's give them the space? I stared at her. You serious? It's not a big deal, she said, folding her arms. It's just one weekend. Tyson was already walking in, setting his bag down on my workspace like it had been waiting for him. Claudine, as if on cue, walked over and without hesitation picked up my coffee mug and my laptop and set them on the floor outside the door. There, she said. No drama. I looked down at my laptop, sitting on the tile like someone's leftovers. You're not even successful, Simon, Claudine said suddenly. No offense, but this space should go to someone building something real. My ears rang. I picked up the laptop slowly, tucked it under my arm, and stood still for a second. Everyone just stood there waiting for me to say something, snap, protest, raise my voice, plead even. I didn't. I looked at Elise one more time. Her arms were still crossed, her mouth tight, like she was waiting for me to just swallow it down again. So I walked out the door, bag on my shoulder, without another word. The car ride back to Chicago was quiet. Scratch that there was no car ride. Elise stayed behind. I left alone. I didn't call her. Didn't text. Didn't respond when she finally messaged me that night. I didn't want it to happen like that. I got back to my one-bedroom apartment, sat on the edge of my bed, and just breathed. They didn't respect me. I knew that. But it took watching my wife stand there and say nothing for me to finally believe it. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into work. There was no one to cook for, no distractions, no pretending. I landed a contract with a Chicago-based logistics company that needed a full back-end rebuild. Then came a referral from one of my older clients, a healthcare firm in Cleveland. I worked 16-hour days. Didn't mind. Money started coming in fast. I bought a second monitor, then a standing desk, then upgraded the apartment lease to a small loft closer to downtown. I didn't tell Elise. Until 2 months later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it ring twice. Picked up on the third. Simon, came the voice on the other end. It was Meryl, her dad. What's up? I said flat. We've got a situation. I waited. That business Tyson was starting with Faye? It's fallen apart. I stayed silent. He took the money, Meryl added. Disappeared. The website is a mess. Customers are complaining. There are chargebacks. It's affecting our credit. How much money? 32,000. Of our own. Not including the debt he put on our card. I leaned back in my chair, watching traffic crawl along Wacker Drive below my window. And you know this stuff. Elise says you're working with logistics now. Systems, e-commerce platforms, all that. You kicked me out of your house. That was Claudine. It wasn't personal. She said I wasn't successful. A long pause. We were wrong, Meryl finally said. Then another voice popped on the line. Claudine. She must have been listening in. Simon, sweetheart, she said quickly, too cheerfully. We could really use your help. This whole thing has turned into a mess. I always said you had a gift with this computer stuff. I almost laughed. Tell you what, I said. Email me everything you have. I'll take a look. You will? Claudine asked, too quickly. I didn't say I'd help. I said I'd look. Then I hung up. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was stressed. I couldn't stop thinking. I laid there in bed, staring at the dark ceiling of my loft with a weird sort of stillness in my chest. Claudine, Meryl, Elise, begging for help. The same people who laughed as they tossed my laptop on the floor like it was a tray of old dishes. The same people who treated my career like a hobby. The same woman who stood by and let it happen. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger is hot and fast. This was colder, slower, focused. I got up just after 6 a.m., brewed coffee, and sat down at my desk as the city outside stirred to life. Email from Meryl was already sitting in my inbox. Subject line: please review at your earliest convenience. Inside was a PDF with their site credentials, payment gateway issues, and a lengthy, unorganized dump of what appeared to be correspondence between Tyson and Faye. I opened one. Babe, I swear this is going to be big. Once I move the funds, we'll just rebrand. My guy in Dallas said it's a done deal. Don't tell your parents yet. Let's let them see it after it launches. They were taken for a ride. Hook, line, and $1,000 sinker. Their site was built on a cheap dropshipping platform with no back-end protection. Tyson had created duplicate merchant accounts. He wasn't just running the business into the ground, he was skimming the profits, rerouting them to wallets they couldn't trace. Amateur stuff, but effective enough when your investors are desperate boomers with no tech sense and a 30-year-old daughter who thinks UI stands for University of Indiana. I spent an hour taking notes. Then I wrote a reply. Reviewed. Site has major security issues. Merchant account is compromised. Backend is using duplicated API calls to funnel funds to a secondary wallet. Likely criminal liability if chargebacks continue. You'll want a statement ready in case of inquiry. Hit send. Didn't take 15 minutes for my phone to buzz. Claudine. Simon, she said breathlessly. Meryl and I were going over what you said, and we're really scared. Is there anything you can do? Sure, I said, sipping my coffee. I can rebuild the backend and trace the wallet flow. I'll need full admin access. That includes the email server. Of course, anything you need. I'll send you a proposal. Oh, don't worry about payment. We'll give you a cut. No, I cut in. You'll pay my full rate. Upfront. 15,000. Plus costs. Silence. I thought you were doing this as a favor. No, I said. That's what got you into this mess, trusting people without contracts. This is business. You said I wasn't successful. Well, it turns out you need exactly what I do. She cleared her throat. You don't need to get snide. I'm not. I'm being professional. Let me know by the end of the day. I hung up. Around noon, Elise showed up. I hadn't seen her since the weekend. They all humiliated me. She stood at the door, biting her lip, holding a reusable coffee cup in both hands like she needed something to grip. Hi, she said. Hey, you look good. I've been busy. She stepped in, eyes scanning the loft like she was trying to memorize it. She looked nervous. She'd done her hair in the way she used to when we first started dating, down, loose, a little curled. I didn't know they called you. They're in trouble. I know. I warned them. I know that too. She stood there, quiet. I didn't know it would get this bad, she said finally. You didn't say anything when they kicked me out. I froze. I didn't think. No, I said. You didn't. She set the coffee cup down on the counter and came closer. I made a mistake, Simon. I should have backed you up. I should have said something. I looked at her. Not angry. Not hurt. Just done. You chose comfort over respect, I said. That's not something you come back from easily. I know. But I came back anyway. I raised an eyebrow. I left the house, she said. I've been staying with a friend. Tyson burned bridges everywhere. Faye's blaming everyone. My parents are panicking. And all I could think about was how quiet you were when you left. How you didn't fight. You just walked out like I was finally tired. She nodded. Her eyes looked glassy now. You always thought I needed defending, I said. But I never did. I just needed you to believe me. I did. No. I corrected her gently. You believed in what I could be, not who I already was. She looked down. I didn't say anything else. I didn't offer her forgiveness. I didn't tell her to go or to stay. I just went back to my desk and opened the next file in the pile. I heard the door close behind her 5 minutes later. By the end of the day, I had 2 voicemails from Meryl and a follow-up email from Claudine agreeing to the fee. I wrote up a full agreement, signed, and attached an invoice. 3 hours later, I had access to everything. I started working, and I started finding things. Tyson wasn't just sloppy. He was reckless. He had emails with promises to investors about fake product lines. He'd spoofed shipping reports, used a third-party fulfillment center that didn't exist, and registered a shell company under Meryl's name. It was bad. But what really caught me off guard wasn't Tyson. It was Faye. I found her email trail PDFs she'd signed, notes she'd kept. She wasn't just helping Tyson. She was the one who opened the second account. She'd been siphoning off customer refunds and stashing them into a crypto wallet under her own name. It wasn't just a scam. It was theft. And now it was tied to her parents' names. The next morning, I sent Claudine a calm, polite summary. Attached are preliminary findings. Tyson's actions constitute probable wire fraud. But the concerning part is Faye's involvement. Her signature is on multiple authorization forms. She directly linked her crypto wallet to the refund processor. Based on these records, she's personally liable. I didn't elaborate. I didn't need to. I gave them the facts like a doctor reading an x-ray. She called 20 minutes later. Simon, she said, and she didn't even try to hide the panic in her voice. This can't be right. You're sure these aren't forged? Nope. I verified IP logs. Timestamps match her logins. It's all there. She left a full trail. She went silent. I let it hang. Then I added, the refund processor flagged the account last week. If they dig deeper, it won't just be Faye they question. Meryl's name is on the business registration. That's going to attract scrutiny. Oh God, she whispered. She's my daughter. She's also 29 years old, with 2 active Venmo business accounts and a history of borrowed money from every failed thing she's touched in the last 5 years. I didn't know, no, I said. You didn't want to know. Then I waited. And finally, the question came. What do we do? I didn't answer right away. I let it breathe. The longer I waited, the more she understood. I was the one who knew how to fix this now. I had the knowledge they laughed at, the same one they tried to stuff into a corner of their house like I was a nuisance. I'll clean it up, I said, but I'm not doing this quietly. What does that mean? It means Faye's going to take the fall. Publicly. Legally, if needed. No scapegoating Tyson. No family misunderstanding. I'm going to hand this over to the proper channels unless I get full control of the company's site, financials, and correspondence. You're going to send an email to your investors. I will write it, and you'll put my name at the bottom. I don't know if I can do that. You'll do it, I said. Or you'll face the IRS, the payment processor, and every customer who filed a dispute. You'll lose your savings. Maybe your home. I wasn't yelling. I didn't need to. I was just done being polite. Send me the login for Faye's bank portal, I added. I'm going to trace the rest. Later that afternoon, Elise texted me. Elise, I heard about Faye. My mom's freaking out. Elise, did you really find proof? Elise, can we talk? I stared at the screen for a long time. Then typed. Me. There's nothing to talk about. Not yet. She didn't reply. By the next morning, Claudine had forwarded every account credential I requested. Meryl followed with a scanned, signed letter of authorization for me to act on their behalf in investigating and repairing the site and all business-related digital assets. The same people who mocked my career had just handed me the keys to their financial future. The same woman who sneered, "You're not even successful," now needed me to save her name from public ruin. I won't lie, it felt good. Not satisfying, not joyful, but clean. Like finally rinsing off something that's been sticking to you for years. I spent the next week rebuilding their back-end infrastructure, flagging fraudulent data entries, and initiating a fraud alert with the processor. I rewrote every piece of their public site and sent investors a formal apology email on behalf of Meryl and Claudine. Then I attached my logo to the footer. System integrity restored by S. Wexler Digital Consulting. A few of my own clients saw it and called me. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was finally being recognized for for fixing the exact kind of disaster I used to get dismissed over. One night, around 9:30 p.m., I got another knock on the door. It was Elise again, but this time she didn't wait to be let in. I found her standing just inside the threshold of the building, hair damp from the rain, eyes tired. "Do you have 5 minutes?" she asked. I nodded, stepped aside. She came in slowly, looked around like she was still trying to place herself in my world. "You redecorated," she said, forcing a smile. I moved on. She turned, met my eyes. "So it's really over." "I think it was over the minute I realized you were never on my side." "That's not fair." "Maybe not. But it's true. I made a mistake," she said, her voice cracking a little. "I thought they'd come around. I thought if I kept the peace, it would work out. I never thought they'd push you out like that." "They didn't push me, Elise. You let them." Silence. She looked down. "I don't know who I am without them." I nodded. "That's something you'll have to figure out." She walked to the window, stared out at the city lights for a long moment. Then she turned. "Are you seeing anyone?" "No," she smiled sadly. "Good. I don't know why, but I'm glad. I'm not waiting for you." "I know." More silence. She looked like she wanted to say more. She didn't. She just walked over, kissed me on the cheek, and whispered, "Thank you for everything, even the part that hurt." Then she left. 3 days later, I got a package in the mail. No note. Just a handwritten check signed by Meryl for $20,000. Underneath the amount was a scribbled message, "For saving us from ourselves." I deposited the check, and I never replied.